Hi, my name is Rivka. I am 55 years old. I am 10 years post Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. At the time I had my gastric bypass, I weighed 311 pounds. My BMI was 58. I now weigh between 140 and 145, and I have a normal BMI. I have almost 10 grandchildren. I have 4 adult children and 1 adult stepchild. 2 years after my gastric bypass, I did get married. I was single for 17 years before that. I have survived, and I am thriving. Not all of us survive. Some of us have died from protein deficiencies, other vital nutrient deficiencies that we've not been able to upload into our pouch because, we are artificially created to be malabsorptive. Our bodies are constantly trying to adjust and compensate for our disabilities, but I don't expect that before I enter the grave I will ever have repaired my digestive system totally, because it has been permanently reconstructed to never absorb nutrition from foods normally, from standard American foods in a normal manner. Not that it can't absorb nutrition, it can, but you have to be very diligent and very educated and informed on what you can use for nutrition in your body. I'm not a professional, but I'm here sharing my experience, knowing that there are a lot of people out there like me that some know and some don't know that they're surviving, but they're not necessarily thriving. There was a time that I had lost all my weight and I was so malnourished, and I thought that I looked good. But I'll show you sometime. We'll get to that point. I'll show you pictures. But I can look now at my pictures that are and the pictures that were and know that I didn't look good. I looked malnourished. I looked like I had survived cancer, chemotherapy, that I looked 20 years older than I look now. But that's the purpose of these videos, is to talk about the possible short, medium, and long-term side effects. I think the first thing that I want to look at after the introduction video will be who we were before the gastric bypass. Because my experience before my gastric bypass, because of my obesity, is I was not seen as very valuable. Don't get me wrong, I had a job, I had friends. It was just a group that I didn't fit in. I wasn't valued in. Let's leave it like that. I wasn't valued in because of my size. And indeed, I didn't feel good. My blood pressure was like 200 over 180 with blood pressure med. I had sleep apnea, terrible sleep apnea, constant lower back pains. I couldn't walk far at all without getting severe muscle spasms, out of breath. I was severely anemic, and I truly believe I was malnourished. Okay, short-term studies show for Roux-en-Y gastric bypass: iron deficiency, vitamin B12 deficiency, vitamin D deficiency, vitamin C deficiency, folic deficiency, and low compliance for vitamin supplementation. That last one's basically our fault, because we don't really know what we're getting into when we have gastric bypass, do we? It's kind of like being pregnant and wanting that baby, and we have this idea of what it's going to be like to be a mother, holding a baby, loving a baby, caring for a baby. And then 6 months later, after we've slept 2 hours a night, and we've changed poopy diapers that leak out the sides and up the back and all over the beds, and wiped projectile vomiting off the wall a couple times, and been insufficient in soothing a cranky child, our idealism has met our reality, and they're not quite the same thing. That's kind of what happens to us after gastric bypass. We have this romanticized idealism that we're going to have gastric bypass, we're going to lose all the weight, We're going to have a trim body that we can put into a bathing suit, lay out in the sun, put in clothes, parade around the mall, go to parties with, go drinking with our buddies, whatever. We have our dream in our head of how life is going to be. We're going to be loved, accepted, we're going to be valued, we're going to have good health, we're going to have energy, we're going to have all these things, whatever that thing is, whatever that picture is, we think that's what we're going to have. Why? Because we don't know. We've never had gastric bypass, like we've never had a child, or like you've never been married, or like you've never graduated from high school yet and you don't know what life is on the other side of that. We don't know. We lack experience. And there's no way that anybody can impart that experience to us better than experience. Experience is the best teacher. And so while I'm hoping that people who are looking or wanting to have Roux-en-Y may be researching the benefits, the complications, if they should, if they shouldn't, while I'm hoping that a few people watch these too and they'll be able to glean some stuff, I don't have high hopes of changing a lot of people's mind, because by and large people learn the best through experience, and there are very few people, the percentages are actually very low, that actually learn from other people's mistakes and can glean enough to make a decision without wanting to try it for themselves. So all that to say that we didn't know what we got into when we were having gastric bypass, but one of our own worst enemies is living with the day-to-day in and outs of, I've lost my weight, but guess what? I still have gastric bypass. I don't need to lose any more weight. Or maybe even you do need to lose weight. Some of us are still going to need to lose weight because we don't have the right nutrition, because we're not satisfying our bodies, because we are not using gastric bypass as a tool and we have not learned how to work with it instead of fight with it. But because we're our own worst enemies, we get tired. We get tired of taking our vitamin B12 supplements or shots. We get tired of taking our iron supplements or shots. We don't take vitamin B, or we don't take time to get into the sun so we don't have to take vitamin B. Folic acid. You know, if we're not diligent, if we're not testing on a yearly basis to know where our nutritional levels are, and I do believe in diagnosticians, doctors are absolutely phenomenal diagnosticians, and we need to use them. But I don't necessarily believe in turning over the control of our health to them. I believe in taking control and being proactive with your health, and we'll get into that more. But if we're not doing the things that we need to do to take care of our bodies, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years after gastric bypass, then we really haven't gained anything. All we have done, and I'm going to use a lot of, I don't know, you call them parables, little stories. All we have done is like a divorce. We've changed the problems in our life. We may not have the old problems. We may not weigh 300 pounds. We may not have sleep apnea. We may not have a back that kills us before the end of the day. But we've got other problems. We may be anemic. We may be dull-skinned, gray, flaky skin, sagging skin, dull eyes, straw hair. You know, we simply have traded problems. Until we learn to live with what we've been given the rest of our life to deal with, we will never fully thrive.